Now I'm down here in the dungeon, which is my basement, but that's what I call it. The reason being is that I was going to show you my future garden. Now, this is where I live. This is the time for me to start my seeds. I started them about 10 days ago, and that's going to probably be perfect, a lot better than last year. Last year I started them way too early. I keep a garden log every year to let me kind of know my failures and my successes. And I would say that if you do garden, that's a good practice to have, because I have learned a lot from my years being here. Since I've been in this state for 4.5 years, but I've only had a garden for 4 seasons. That I have learned a lot and how different it is from back home. So, but even if you are where you born and raised, it's good to have a log. That way you know what varieties did well, what varieties didn't do well. I also document, temperatures and rains and such as that, because this time, even though our last frost date occurred last weekend, you still can't get out and work in the garden. We still have some threats of frost this week. But every year, this is the rainy season here. So it is going to take a couple weeks for it to quit raining and dry out enough that you can actually work the ground. And I've learned that the hard way, trying to get, plants in quick. And if you've seen my previous garden videos, you'll see I always get started late because of the same reason, either because it's too cold or it's too wet or both. And so I've learned I keep pushing the date back further and further. And so I started these only, like I said, about a week before the last frost date. And so, a lot of people, I see people on YouTube planting seeds a month ago that live in Michigan. I don't know what your secret sauce is, but I can't do that here. But and I'm a lot further south than Michigan. But anyway, I'm going to show you my little garden setup. I am scaling back on my garden this year, and I'll explain why after you see my little seed starting setup. So this is my uber low-tech garden seed starting setup. And it works great, actually. It's just 2 4-foot fluorescent fixtures that's hung with just the cheap metal. It's not the plastic, but the cheap metal chain that goes up to some eye hooks in the top, and then down here the excess chain I use to secure the two together this way, so that the lights stay, they stay close together this direction. So just make sure it's level, and that's what I do. This is hilarious. I bought one of these adjustment things. I'll see if I can get it on the film. You probably can't tell what that is, but anyway, I bought that for this year, and I was going to use it, and it's one of those things where by the time I got the seeds and everything planted, I was going to come back and take the chain down and put up the new adjustment system. But I thought, you know what, I've got it like I like it. And when I move the seeds outside to harden off, that's when I'll do it. I'm not going to do it right now, because basically at this height, I'm about probably 5 or 6 inches, I guess, maybe 6 inches from the plants themselves. I won't really move them any. I've already moved them up a little bit. They were lower, but I probably won't move them up any, because I'm going to get these out and get them hardened off as soon as I start seeing some true leaves. But from left to right, you'll see I have tomatoes. I do have some skips here, but I have tomatoes. These are my peppers. Peppers take forever to germinate, so you can see they're just now starting to come up. This is my Puma peppers. These are habanero peppers, and these are bell peppers. I only got one, so I'm hoping some more pop up. And then over here I have collards, cabbage, I've got zucchini, squash, and cucumber. And that rounds it all out. So far, I've done pretty good, though. I would say I've got probably about 70 to 75% germination. It's this pepper patch right here that's really throwing me off. But peppers do take forever to germinate, so I'm not giving up on them. They will probably keep sprouting for the next several days, and I'll just have more. I'm just hoping that, like I said, I don't want just one lonely little bell pepper. Here it is. This guy, that one bell pepper, he needs some friends. So if he doesn't start getting some friends, I'll have to fix that. Now, like I said, I am scaling way back on my garden. Reason being is that last year the deer came in and destroyed my garden. I do have electric fence. I'm going to put up electric fence this year. However, I am only going to be doing raised beds. Reason being is that the garden I had more than doubled the size of between the year before last and last year, and it was just too much. It was too much for me to handle by myself. I work a lot of hours, and then the deer and everything. It was just it's too much for me. So I'm going to scale it way back. When I say way back, I'm only doing raised beds. So I have 16 raised beds. Some are larger, some are smaller, some are huge, some are not. It's just a variety of different raised beds. Most of them you've seen go along my barn or my shop, and that's a big chunk. That's 8 of them, so that's half of them right there. I have the 4 really big ones that I built for last year's garden, and then I have 4 more, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to really try to master just this little bit of garden. That should be pretty easy for me to handle, and I can grow a ton of food in these 16 raised beds, and I think that'll be about all I want to take on this year. I keep kicking around the idea of just having a little 10 by 10 area, just because I like to have regular dirt garden. But I don't, at this point, right this moment today, I'm not going to. I'm just going to do the raised beds. Now, so the main topic of this video is that you need to stock up. You really need to get yourself food, because surely I'm not the only one that you've heard of telling you this. Everybody's telling you this. Even the president is telling you this, and he can't really say a whole lot about anything in any kind of way that makes any sense. He's even saying there's going to be some food shortages. And so if you're just a regular person on the street like me, you're going to be the last to know. And so you are now officially the last person to know, because everybody else in the know knows that there's going to be some food shortages. And so by the time it comes down to lonely us, little old worker bees in the population, we're the last to know. So you better do something about that now. The garden, even though, like I said, I'm scaling way back, if I tend to these raised beds like they should be, weed-free, work them, plant them close, maximize square foot gardening, I should be able to do very well with that. And so that's my plan. I think if I were to just maximize my yields in these beds and work them like they should and push them like I can, then I would get more from them than I would a bigger garden. So that's my theory, at least. I'll see if it comes true. The other thing is if you can grow a garden, grow something. You don't have to have a big piece of land like this. You don't have to have a big giant garden like what I had. Like I said, I'm scaling mine way back. So I'm probably, based from the size of garden I had last year to this garden, it's probably a quarter of my garden. But it's better to have a quarter of garden that you can manage than 4 times the garden that you can't. So plant something, even if it's in a bucket. Plant something, and there's ways that you can grow plants in buckets It's all over YouTube. I'm kicking around the idea of making another. I had made some self-watering bucket planters. I may do that again this year. I'm not sure, because my Puma peppers that I showed you up there, I'm running pretty low on seed stock, because last year when I grew a whole ton of them, I forgot to save my seeds because I'm just not that bright. But I forgot to save the seeds, so I'm growing whatever I can get out of these for plants. I'm saving every bit of my seed, and then I can not separate. I'm going to have to separate them like on the other side of the house from the rest of the garden, that type of thing, just to try to save my seeds and keep them pure. But regardless of that, like I said, before I moved here, we had a bucket garden. We'd gone to Walmart, to their bakery, and asked them about free buckets. They'll give you free buckets. This was in Wichita. They'll give you free buckets. They're full of icing and stuff. They're not clean. They'll give them to you, with all the scrapings and remnants of icing, but they run through your dishwasher. Just run them through dishwasher, no heat, and they come out like brand new. And from there, you can build your self-watering, or just have regular punch holes in it so it can drain, what have you. But you can do that successfully. We had probably 10 buckets, is my guess. 10 buckets had tomatoes and peppers. And that's all that I was even trying to grow in the buckets. And we had plenty of tomatoes and peppers. Not enough to put up, but enough to eat and offset what we would have bought at the grocery store. And that's what I would suggest to anybody that can grow anything. Even if you're in an apartment, get you a one of those hanging planters, or if you can put a planter on the ground right outside your door where it gets a lot of sun. But even a hanging planter will grow some cherry tomatoes. And cherry tomatoes will put out a ton of tomatoes. And so there's always some kind of way. Now, I know people that have homes, they're in subdivisions, and they've told me several times, they say, I just don't have anywhere to put a garden. And you start looking around, and they've got plenty of places to put a garden. They just don't really want to put a garden in, is what I'm thinking. But you can find a spot, and it doesn't have to be big. Get you the raised beds I have right by the shop, right up against the shop, they're only about 2 foot deep and 8 foot long. And that's so you can reach it and get into the full garden from one side, because you obviously can't go to the other side because it's up against the shop. But even that, this 8 foot by 2 foot, depending on what you're growing, you can grow a ton of food in that. But anyway, stick with me on this channel. If you would, like and subscribe. And I'm going to do some trellising in those little baby raised beds, because I'm wanting to, like I said, maximize my garden space. So if you don't have, let's just say you really don't have any way to garden or put in a garden, or you just don't want to put it in a garden, I ain't mad at you. That's your prerogative. But you still need to stock up. So right now, even though food prices are going through the roof, get some extra food. If you like corn in the can, next time you go to the grocery store, buy 2 or 3 cans of corn. You like green beans, buy 2 or 3 cans. Now, nobody's going to break the bank that way, because even with the prices right now, corn and green beans at Walmart are still around 50 to 60 cents per can. So a couple extra cans, you're 3 cans, you're talking less than $2. And you don't have to go out and buy it all at one time. Do it when you go to the grocery store. Or what I had also done is I always go to the grocery store on a certain day of the week, just because it works with my schedule. But when I wanted to kind of stock up, I'd go twice a week. And I'd have a very small budget on this day that I go, that's not my normal day, and then my normal budget, the actual grocery day. And that way you can actually, just with say $10 a week, you can buy canned goods. You can stock up pretty hard and fast just with that little bit of money. You're talking $10 extra a week, and you go strictly for that. When you walk in Walmart, don't get sidetracked with the the dairy and the automotive. Just go straight to whatever section that you're looking for to get your preps, and that's what you need to get. Start with something like corn and green beans. That's your cheapest things. Unless you want to do rice and dry beans. That's rice and dry beans going to be probably your cheapest thing, but then you got to put them up in some way, form, or fashion. I would say go ahead and start with canned goods. Start with canned beans, green beans, whatever kind of bean you like, but generally the green beans are the cheapest. Corn, whatever type of corn you like, whether it's cream style, whatever, get you a can of corn. So get you some corn and green beans, then start looking at other things. Because you could take, if you had, say, $10, and, used to be, back in the good old days, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, the corn was 50 cents a can. So for $10, you could buy, I'm guessing, about 18 cans of corn, and with tax, there's your $10, right? That's a guess. I'm not a mathematician. But you get my point. So you could wipe that out and say, okay, for right now, I've got my 18 cans of corn. Next week, I'm going to hit green beans. Next week, I'm going to hit whatever. So that's what I just wanted to make this video about. Make it short and to the point. I hope you enjoyed my little garden. I've still got a long ways to go with that. I've still got to get more growth on them. I gotta get them hardened off and go on the ground. But like I said, I got plenty of time. Living here, I've learned I've probably got most of the month of May, and it's not even May. So I'm sitting pretty on that. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I hope you do start something. Even if you just start small, it's a start. You don't have to have the you don't have to have the freeze dryers. You don't have to have the dehydrators. You don't have to have any of that stuff that you see where people, you don't have to can anything. Those are all pluses. Those are all skills and equipment and things that you can do later if you haven't started. But if you haven't started, start simple, start little, and get you some traction. Like I said, let's say it's $5. I only have $5 a week. I can only do $5 a week. Well, and you go to the grocery store, say every Friday, I don't know. Well, pick another day. Pick a Tuesday and say, this is my stock up day. Take your $5. Go in there, like I said, can of corn. You can get 8, I'm guessing. Get 8 cans. 8 cans of corn. And then the next week, get your green beans. Next week, get whatever. But you'll see that this doesn't take a lot of time or effort, and it doesn't really take a lot of storage. But you got to start somewhere, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do. So anyway, hope you like the video. Click the like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next adventure. Thanks.